Hi, I'm Chris Randall with Microsoft Learning, and I'm joined this afternoon on our Channel 9 live stream with Elo Tran, a data scientist. And not just a data scientist, you're also responsible for yesterday's diversity panel, is that right?
Yes.
I'm going to read the title so I get it right, but it's this wonderful title, How Diversity Drives Excellence in Our Data-Driven Tech World.
Yes.
So how did that go?
It went so well because we more than eightuple the attendance from last event, and this event we had more than 80 people in the room, and they didn't want to leave.
Nice.
So it was so nice.
So let's talk a little bit about the content of the panel and some of the questions and issues. But before we do that, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? So you are a data scientist. You mentioned that you've done some work for the city of Bellevue here. You are involved with
PyLadies,
right? And then you recently won a hackathon.
Yes, I won a nationwide hackathon, the T-Mobile Amazon Big Data Hackathon, and it was a great honor. I won the best model of the event, and it was my great privilege.
Nice.
To
What
be
was the
there.
project?
It was reducing a big data set and how to predict who customers are more likely to react to a direct mail campaign.
Okay, sure. So it was sort of a classic use. You said it was sponsored by T-Mobile, so
yeah, and Amazon,
related,
AWS.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, thank
well,
you.
So how did you get to there? So you won a big data hackathon this spring. You're a data scientist, but you weren't always a data scientist.
Oh no, I've been working with data for more than 10 years. So I moved from Mexico almost 3 years ago, and I worked for more than 8 years in the manufacturing industry and the business analysis for the automotive manufacturing industry. And when I moved to the US, I find out that if I learn how to deal with more dimensions in my data sets and I learn Python, I could become a complete data scientist and also learn the very complex machine learning algorithms. So I got into a program, and that helped me to get my knowledge in data science and in machine learning, and also I had a very strong support system that is PyLadies. I love PyLadies, I have it here, and I'm one of co-organizers of PyLadies, and we provide support than more than 1,000 women in the local area in Seattle, helping Erin and Wendy. They rock. Yes, we love.
So let's talk a little more about PyLadies. So you're an organizer for the local Seattle and Bellevue area chapters, and PyLadies is nationwide, international.
Yes, PyLadies is an international organization, and we just a local chapter, but we cover Seattle, Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, and we provide a mentorship to women and how to develop their skill and how to get connection into tech, and we deal also with some kind of workshop and how to improve our imposter syndromes and how to overcome our fears. So basically we are the support system of every woman who wants to program in Python, and we are here for them, and they were there for me when I recently moved to the US. So one of the advice that I have for women in tech is find your support system and find a meetup and go there and talk with people, and if you need help, don't be afraid, go and ask for help, and we are here with our open arms to help every single woman. Even you don't need to know anything of Python, we can help you with that. And we provide several services like hack nights and learning circles, and also we have every month big presentation in one of the big companies. We have some presentation here at Microsoft.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got involved in the local community through PyLadies. You also went through that training program you mentioned for data science. What else has helped you? What else has prepared you for this career and for any other challenges that you're facing?
I think volunteering a lot and being part of being a woman, being a minority, like being from Mexico, and come to the US and start a professional career in data science is really challenging because in here what is going to really help you is your support system. In my case, it's been PyLadies and now PyData, and I also co-work, and I also organize the meetup, and I think having your network, it really helps you to have to get really into the career you really want to.
So let's go back to something you brought up a moment ago, and that was the idea of imposter syndrome, which is something I've certainly heard about in this industry and others. Let's talk a little bit about how that affects people in minorities or women or people with disabilities. How is that different than, say, if I had imposter syndrome as a white bread American male, that may not look like it? So how is that different in your community?
So yesterday we talked about that item during the diversity panel event, and one of the comments that one of the panelists provide to us that we were there was that white men, like such as yourself, and minorities and people with disadvantage, I think we all feel the imposter syndrome for equal. And the difference is that that, for example, for women and minorities and people with disabilities, is that at the contrary of a white man, that they might feel the imposter syndrome if he can go ahead and execute the task and say, oh yes, I'm perfect for this job, and even when he still feels the imposter syndrome.
That's sort of the fake it till you make it approach.
Yeah.
Right.
But the difference is from their perspective, from the professional that were in the panel, and they said that we as minorities and part of the diversity area, we feel the imposter syndrome, but we don't act, we don't execute, we don't go to the next step, or we don't fake it as good. Or we need more courage. So that would be a clear difference in the imposter syndrome that I got from yesterday's session.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about how we can, and maybe bring up some of the content from the panel yesterday, how we can, let's say from the perspective of organizations and of a community or a hiring manager, what kinds of resources should we know about? What kinds of things should we be doing to help not just people with imposter syndrome, but to seek out a more inclusive staff or community or membership?
So one thing that one of the people in the one of the person in the panel said that there should be systems in place, and also when the hiring manager is hiring for a certain position, the threshold for that position is different, because the minorities and women, and we have maybe the same standard knowledge for that position, but it has to be, for example, when they publicize a job position, it has to be some kind of difference, because every race and every situation and every minority, we have a different threshold of, for example, of if we see a job position and we see several items that we don't fit, but we fit some of them, we don't apply.
Okay.
Meanwhile, they mentioned that there are some studies where a person who is not in disadvantage on minorities area, they still apply. They go ahead and they apply. So they mentioned something that there has to be a different threshold if they really want to engage women and minorities.
Right. And we've mentioned the panel a couple of times, and we do want to point out that the panel and the other sessions from this conference will be available on demand, I think within the next few days. It's live in this track only today, but it'll all be available subsequently. So people will be able to go back and review that. Because we're not going to necessarily touch on every topic that was brought up in the panel, but we want to make sure we can point out where we can get it. Well, so let's talk a little bit more about the panel. Let's drill into that some. So when I looked at some of the questions, I thought that some of them were focused perhaps on the organizers or the community leaders or the hiring managers of the organizations. What can we do to be more inclusive? And then there were a set of questions that were perhaps aimed at people in minority communities or the disabled community, what have you. What can we do to further ourselves? So from all of those questions, what kinds of things caught your ear? What were interesting to you?
So one of the response that I really liked was from Tina Marie. She's the director of Chic Tech Seattle. And she said that sometimes it's very usual that we are not even aware that also people with disabilities are part of us, of the minorities and diversity, and we need to be inclusive because they also are, I think they are, from my perspective, the people that really need more support, strong support, even from our own side, from the side of the women and as talking as a woman and minority and Latina. Yes.
Okay, so that's sort of the idea of intersections between different communities, right? What else caught your ear in terms of what organizations can do? So you're a leader of the women's Python group. What challenges are you seeing, or do other leaders of that group see in terms of attracting people from different backgrounds? I mean, you have one thing in common, certainly, that you're women in technology, but there are also going to be different communities, sub-communities perhaps within that. What kinds of things do you run into?
Could you
Sure. So
rephrase
right. So just to rephrase the question, if we think about, I tend to talk too fast when I'm excited about the topic.
Yes,
If we talk about PyLadies, for example, one thing you all have in common in that group, presumably, is that you're women in technology. And so there's a commonality there, but there are also going to be women from different backgrounds, right?
Yes.
Different cultures, different countries, what have you. Do you see any of the issues in a group like that sort of reflect the larger industry, or is everybody gets along just fine?
Well, from my point of view, dealing with PyLadies, and organizing this diversity panel, because I was the one who organized and contacted our great panelists.
Right.
I learned that, for example, a person, if I am a woman, I have some kind of disadvantage. But if I am a Latina, it's compounding the disadvantage. It's not like, I'm a woman and I have this disadvantage. No. On top of that, I'm a Latina, and on top of that, I have the language barrier that I just recently moved to the U.S. and I'm still managing the language. So when we are in these kind of events like the diversity panel or working with PyLadies, we have all these women with all the different backgrounds, and some of them, they really have compounding disadvantage. So one of the things that I am aware now is that the help that companies are right now providing to and because now are more aware of the minorities and women in tech and all of these programs, is that maybe the compounding issue. Some of the areas of minorities, they need more resources than others as well.
Because of that compounding.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the panel yesterday went well. You were telling me that you saw many more attendees this year than in previous. What's next?
What's next? Okay. So for next the PyData Seattle event. Now that we have the experience that this was a success, even the people didn't want to leave the room. They stayed there for another 10 minutes, so that was fantastic. For next chapter, I think we are going to try to look for something, maybe do a hackathon or projects in diversity focusing. Maybe we can have some kind of event within the conference. And also, maybe instead of doing one session of the diversity panel, we can align some kind of sessions targeting diversity and minorities in people in tech. So that would be some of the ideas that they came up from yesterday's successful session.
Excellent. All right. Well, it was a pleasure speaking to you. And thanks for telling us about the panel and the issues and PyLadies.
We love PyLadies.
And we'll wrap up from here and continue with the conference.
Thank you, Chris.